Afternoon, YouTube. My name is James PFP. Not going to be in costume today, although I still am wearing this lovely shirt of mine, this one that I love so well, this SR71. Today's news items are very limited. Very, very limited. We're going to be going live any second here now. I'm going to switch over to the web playthrough. First one's coming down the pipe from Stick, Sex, and Hammer. The reason this is important is that there is no proof
All right,
of
everyone.
Russian collusion.
The idiots in Congress really want a new Cold War. They look back with nostalgia, I think. Some of them have been there too long, and they're starting to get kind of flaky and smell a little bit musty and shit like that. And so they really want to relive the early 90s or the 1980s, depending on whether they're a Democrat or a Republican.
True.
And they wish there was a USSR, but there's not. So they figure, well, Russia's kind of a stand-in, you know, even though it's considerably smaller, with a lot less manpower, an aging nuclear deterrent,
the Warsaw Pact,
a shitty navy. But trust me, their spies are everywhere. There are Reds under the bed still, so we've got to start this Cold War shit back up. And that's really what they want. These sanctions that they're trying to impose on Russia. Now, the Iranian sanctions are really funny, because the same lefties voting in favor of such things don't even realize that they're making an argument against Obama having had success with the Iran deal. The one that they spoke of so glowingly, oh, Iran is perfectly fine, they've done nothing wrong, they're holding up their end of the bargain, give them more free money. They're such a wonderful nation, you know, not a religiously super oppressed one. They're just a wonderful, wonderful people. And by the way, Trump is evil if he tries to temporarily ban migration from this state because, you know, they might be sponsoring militant groups around the world. But it's okay to sanction them anyway. That makes a lot of sense. Now, the North Korea sanction part of the bill that's been pushed through onto Trump's desk, that's just fine. Nobody cares if you sanction North Korea. Not that it's going to do anything. We've tried this act before. The shtick doesn't appear to actually work. It seems like North Korea still exists and is still making steady missile technology progress. But try to tell the idiots in D.C. something like that and they won't believe you, so who cares? As far as Iran, they're being hypocrites. And then they throw Russia in there for good measure, and you know why they did this. They want fundamentally, they just wanted Iranian sanctions. And so they said, well, we'll put Russia in there so that if Trump vetoes this sanction omnibus, he's going to look like he's colluding with the Russians or something. So, I mean, he has to sign it, and even if he vetoes it, it's going to pass through again anyway and override him. And it's dumb. Should be read. It's a really dumb mistake. Russia, in fact, is not the USSR. It does not have the same kind of economic and military capabilities that the USSR was capable of displaying. You'd be better off sanctioning China. Oh, wait, we buy a lot of cheap crap from the Chinese, so we can't do that. The people in Congress are spineless. They're looking at the wrong enemy. Russia is powerful insofar as it has a nuclear capability almost on par with ours, as opposed to China, which has far fewer weapons, most of which are far less advanced. Other than that, Russia has no advantage over the Western world, and when you do stupid stuff like this, you piss off people in other countries that are less Western aligned and might be receptive towards us, but now see us as bullies when our Congress does things like this. Now, if I were Trump, I would just stand on principle. I'd say, well, we don't need any additional sanctions on Russia. And then come out and browbeat them on Iran. Oh, well, you people used to say the Iran deal worked. Why'd you roll this up into it? Put it forth again. I'm vetoing this. Put one forth without all this other crap and just give me my North Korea sanctions because North Korea is actually threatening nuclear annihilation against the Western world. Now, North Korea can't actually do that, but they threaten it constantly. They're working toward, they're obviously attempting to build working multi-stage intercontinental ballistic missiles. They're obviously working towards trying to attain boosted fission for their atomic weapons. It's obvious that that's what they're trying to do. They'd love to have a couple dozen warheads on missiles capable of carrying them. They'd love it. But let's worry about the Russians who so far are not conducting more nuclear tests. Let's try to force them to do so. I think that's what Congress wants. I think they want Russia to go back into Cold War mode and start building more nukes so they can justify higher defense spending or something. That's certainly what McCain wants. McCain comes out, and he rambles about people making tumor jokes about him online, as though he wasn't responsible for tens of thousands of deaths by being rolled up into the Libya bullshit and the Syria bullshit and every other war that's happened while he's been in office. He's been in glowing praise of all of them, both those that ended up happening and those that were kind of put on the back burner because they were unpopular, like the idea of firing missiles at Assad's troops or something like that. McCain's nuts. If John McCain is for something, it's probably a bad idea. I would think that at this point at least some of the Democrats would understand this, but no, they seem to be in support of this too. They don't even realize you do realize that you're sanctioning Iran in the process, despite applauding them for electing supposedly a liberal government, which they kind of sort of did, which I guess is to the credit, honestly, of people there, sort of scaling back the religious zealotry in some cases, that supposedly is not working towards a nuke, according to the left, that supposedly is fully in compliance with the deal struck with them. Now, I have no problem with Iran. I don't really care if they have nuclear energy. I wouldn't even particularly care if they were building atomic weapons, because they're so far, they're even way far behind North Korea, so who really cares? I don't even think the Russians want them to get nuclear weapons. I think they look at Israel's rogue program that wasn't stopped by the U.S. and North Korea's rogue program that wasn't stopped by China, and they say, do we really want to have this problem too? Or do we want to just sort of be the nuclear guarantor of Iran and keep them a vassal state? I think they prefer the latter. But if you keep fucking around with Russia, if they do end up declining further, which is possible, are they really going to be able to stop the Iranians from actually doing that? I think maybe the idea is pressure Russia and sort of kick them out of being a secondary power state as far as economics go. Military power, they're a prime power. They're number 2 in the world. Economically, they're a lot further behind. I think the idea is to denigrate them further so that they lose control of parts of their sphere. Those nations go crazy, the Russians can no longer ideologically defend them, and it allows us to pick off the Iranians or something. I think that's the long-term goal here. Surround the Russians in the process, but primarily it's to deal with Iran and a few of these other states. And it's a crazy idea, because it could start a nuclear war. Do we really want to go through this again? It took us decades and decades and decades of constant back and forth political posturing and economic posturing and proxy wars and social movements and everything else under the sun. Massive spending, constant war footing. It took us decades and decades of that stupidity to kind of end the Cold War in the first place, because the USSR collapses. And now we're back almost to square one. It's like looking like the 1950s as far as diplomacy with Russia goes. And there are other states in the world this time around that are really starting to question whether the NATO countries really have the best interests of mankind in mind. And this includes some of the European countries. And what are we going to do when the EU begins to fracture and Merkel wants her own Fourth Reich and leaves NATO, which is probably what they would do, and builds her sort of super German army or whatever she'd say, when she scraps all those pacifistic treaties and rearms, and people begin, I think in Eastern Europe, begin to get really, really nervous. What exactly are we supposed to do if we've lost the support of some of our other important allies around the world because we keep sanctioning the Russians and sanctioning Iran and going crazy? Diplomatically, it's not a great idea, I think. I would stand with Trump on this and saying it's not necessary. And him being averse to the idea of bullying Russia around is not Trump being a Russian asset. It's called Trump conducting proper diplomacy. When did we get the same people that have spent several decades saying we don't need to be the world police, we need to try to play nice with others, all of a sudden want to play world police and play unkindly with others as long as it's Russia? It's always Russia, Russia, Russia. Everything, every problem that happens in our country somehow boils. Your computer crashed, Russian hackers. Your data got leaked, Russian espionage agents. Some ally said something mean about us, so Russia must have leaned on it.
Was Russia.
How much power do they really have? You'd think that they were a much greater power than the United States. I'm not sure that I actually believe that. I believe that
Russia!
a severely declined former great power turned economically backwards nation that has problems diversifying its own economy, which is right now vulnerable, and is having increasing problems in maintaining their hold on certain Middle Eastern vassal states. That's what Russia resembles to me. I don't wake up in the morning like some paranoid nerd and start saying, oh, well, maybe today the mushroom clouds will be on the horizon. Maybe today the bomb will drop. Oh, I better get to my bunker. You know, people who thought like that a while ago, they used to be ridiculed by Uncle Sam. They used to be ridiculed especially by people who considered themselves liberals. Now, it looks like the parties are switching or something. You know, right now, the parties are switching back to what they used to be like many decades ago. The Democrats are talking about, oh, maybe we need to have more guns to defend ourselves from Nazis, but, you know, they've dropped almost the anti-gun line, including some of the neoliberals. All of a sudden, they're in favor of corporatization. They're the corporate party, they're the banking party, and they're the party of the Cold War. Haven't things begun to switch a little? It's just part of this paradigm shift, but we need to ignore these war hawk and chicken hawk voices, or we probably will end up in a nuclear war. How much pressure is this other nuclear power going to take before we destabilize something? We're working on the next generation of anti-air, anti-missile systems. That alone carries a cautionary tale of if we implement that, and we do so successfully, would it not bring about a situation in which another country that doesn't feel kindly towards us might preemptively strike us? Because Russia has never fully let go of the first strike doctrine, or the possibility of employing it. Would it not possibly cause them to do that, fearing a worse reprisal in the future? It could happen. Unless it's all kabuki theater and the Russian oligarchs and U.S. oligarchs just shake hands and ultimately control everything at the end of the day as part of a Shakespearean arrangement to enslave everyone in the world, in which case we got bigger problems than Russian sanctions anyway. Now, I oppose this. I don't want to go back into Cold War mode. The only thing that would be beneficial is we'd probably get another wave of really weird synthetic music. We'd be back to the 80s on the musical front. Okay, that's fine. I have no problem with that, but we can do that without a Cold War. Fixate on something else. Talk about like asteroids hitting Earth or something. If you want to dress up as an android and play around with your synthesizer, that's good. I fully support that. There are ways, or you know, have coked up rockers talking about how many prostitutes they were with last night. Well, you can do that without worrying about your inevitable mortality. The sort of live fast, die young ideology that we see at that time was prefaced by the threat of nuclear annihilation, partially, and then the rise of technology. We can do that again. We got the tech, and if Congress has its way, we certainly have the threat of nuclear war, so I guess it's back to craft work and stuff like that. That's about all. Peace out.
Yeah, he says peace out at the end. You know, I'm beginning to think he just means this is the cut point. This is where the peace that he's doing, he's delivering, cuts. It ends. Peace out. Funny words, man, English. English is a funny language. I'm thinking about what else we can cue here today. I'm going to cue this one too.
Alright everyone, it's time to talk about Kid Rock, because a lot of people are muttering about the possibility of him running for the Senate. Now, of course, people who don't like his sort of working class rock approach to marketing himself, or saying, oh, he'd be like a Ted Nugent Rube or something like that. If you ever even heard him speak, he's more intelligent than his on-stage persona suggests. The fact that he subsidizes beer costs at his concert says, I think, more about maybe his musical talent than it does about his personality. And he comes off as a likable guy, and that's really all you need, by the way, in this modern era. And I'll tell you why he should run. And my opinion is Kid Rock should run. Take it seriously, make a real run, put yourself out there, get into these debates, lambaste career politicians, and you've got it.
Yeah,
you've
and
got
actually
a very
reap the
good
benefits
chance of winning and
true,
actually going to the Senate. Be very sure,
alone.
though, that you actually want to go to D.C. You're going to have to hang out with a lot of crooked individuals. You're going to have to hang out with corporate lawyers and people that
What he's saying is actually has been true ever since Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura literally had a shot at the presidential race in this last election. He literally had a shot until Chris fucking Kyle opened his mouth. That's what I think.
Any sane, reasonable human being has nothing in fucking common with. So keep that in mind. You're gonna have to deal with the smell of the swamp there for an extended period of time. You know, you want to get the capstone of your legacy. Hey, I ran for office and won. I was a senator. Go for it for, you know, for success's sake. But again, there are repercussions. You have to go to fucking D.C. I'd think that'd be a punishment worse than death, I would think. I don't know why anybody would want a job.
Well, we would want to move.
It's like when people say, "Oh, Stick should run for," like when Bernie Sanders should run for Senate. Never gonna happen. Not in a million years would I even attempt it. I wouldn't want to. I don't even want to visit D.C., let alone have to relocate there for an extended period. Just not my forte there. But I suggest that Kid Rock take it very seriously and should probably run. And if he does, he's got a good chance of winning, and I'll tell you why. In the past, an individual would have had to have been very, very wealthy, self-funded, and have considerable media connections or political connections in order to get into office. If you look at the composition of D.C., you're looking at a lot of corporate lawyers. You know, you're not public defenders, but corporate lawyers, people who defend companies that kill thousands of people or something, or career carpetbag politicians who happen to be drug buddies or sex buddies with someone who was established within politics, or somebody who spent 30 years working their way up through government anyway and has no private experience. And essentially, a lot of the people you've got in D.C. are human scum. They're human waste. They are the dregs of society. Celebrities and entertainers sound much better on it. Even if they're like left-leaning, they'd still be more intelligent half the time. And so I think there's no problem with that. But here's why it's suddenly possible for them to do that. And Trump didn't cause this, but he is a symptom of this general phenomenon. For the first time, it's possible for people who only have marginal wealth and a decent working knowledge of social media and a decent general reception of their content, someone who has marginal celebrity status. It's possible for them to run for office for the first time. Because as we saw in the last election, you can be outraised and outspent many times over, and your opponent can wine and dine and be good friends with the entire corporate media, and it may not save their campaign because so many people are getting their news from people with webcams or blogs or something like that. As such, if Kid Rock had run 8 years ago for office, he wouldn't have gotten anywhere. He would have come in like 4th place or something. Because he doesn't have those corporate ties. Which means that if, you know, some corporate candidate were running, then unless the establishment thought it was funny to have Kid Rock in the Senate, they wouldn't allow him to win. They would simply browbeat him day in and day out, then shut him out, ignore him, and nobody would even remember he was running. They can't do that anymore. Because somebody online will talk about it. Somebody on satellite radio will talk about it. And because of clickbait
if
things,
nothing
some
else,
people
satellite
will take
radio,
it as a joke,
let's just
and they'll talk about it a lot and laugh about
media.
it, and then they'll find out it's serious. They'll continue talking about it because they've built sort of a mini platform on just talking about that one issue. And so it becomes unavoidable. The media will have to talk about it because people are doing so online. They can't ignore them anymore. So Kid Rock, who has a decent degree of wealth and a decent amount of name recognition, would have a considerable advantage, especially since he's never held office before. And he doesn't have to go suck off corporations for the position. He can self-fund, or he could go online and have a GoFundMe if he wanted to. And people can fund that and talk about it online. The idea that you have to have millions of dollars to purchase slews and slews of cable TV ads. You don't even have to worry about buying ads on TV if you're running for office now. You can do it all online, and you can do it for free. So, as long as Kid Rock is willing to say a few off-the-wall things and be his typical on-stage persona, he can win. And I encourage him to take that very seriously. Now, what happens in the future? Right now, you would still have to have enough funding to, you know, do a few things here and there with the political establishment. Kid Rock certainly has millions of dollars. The average person doesn't, though. But those gates are opening too, and there's going to come a time within the next decade in which anybody with substantial name recognition online only is going to be capable of running for office too. You've got a multiplying effect, where in the past, the only audience that was really concerned about any but the most major elections, we're talking like the presidency, was limited to people within the state that was going to vote for a candidate and people in maybe a few surrounding areas, unless there was something very, very newsworthy going on in the race, in which case it becomes national or perhaps international news, some major scandal or some really, really good soaring speech. It had to be something exceptional. That's not the way the news works anymore. Now it's international no matter what the topic is. It's international news if someone goes cow tipping, because somebody can talk about it to an international audience. That then feeds back into things. What happens is, for instance, some local politician does something corrupt. Somebody talks about it online to 500,000 people. All of a sudden, other people are attempting to troll that individual. They're making the prank calls, and they're reposting and sharing things, and they're making their own videos and blog posts about how funny they found it. And so populations that don't even really have anything to do with the situation can weigh in on that subject, and they can do it very easily and instantaneously. They're
not impacted in the same way politically, is what it means, but they are
wherever it happens to be, minds. So if Kid Rock runs, it won't just be people within his state talking about the race. It's already national news, and people talk about it online. That gives him a huge advantage. The fact that he happens to be Kid Rock alone gives him an advantage. People online will be pulling for him because they're going to prefer him over, you know, some corporate lawyer who's running against him or some idiot banker or something like that. And that's just the way modern politics are. Scott Adams alluded to this in his concept of the democratization of politics within the Western world. And I think it goes a little bit further than that, but what he's saying is fundamentally true. Because of the online world being so decentralized, because of the rise of an entirely new class of many tens of thousands of people with substantial worldwide audiences who have virtually no overhead in generating those audiences, the old guard media is dying off. Their importance is waning. It's never been as high as it was in the past. It's never going to be as...
This is an interesting
tomorrow
point
it will be low.
Here. Look, Kid Rock did not make his career in a vacuum. Kid Rock did not use the internet to make his career in the same way that even, say, Justin Bieber did. And Justin Bieber, let's just put this right out there. Justin Bieber, for all of his fans that he had on YouTube when he first started out as an act or whatever, is still a highly produced, systematic, like not systematic, but still a highly produced product of the system itself, which pre-exists Justin Bieber. The thing that made Kid Rock big made Justin Bieber big, if you get me. Neither one of them used the internet from the get-go as their thing, although Bieber came closer to
more than it is today, and that trend will continue largely for some time to come until cable is nothing more than an interesting relic where people run the same old shows into the ground over and over. On demand and YouTube and things like that will displace cable. Services online will displace and have been displacing radio. It's just, if you look at terrestrial radio and its decline over the last 10 years because of online streaming and people put music, you know, they use their phones for music now and stuff like that, or file sharing services. If you look at the decline of terrestrial radio, you're looking at what cable will be in 10 years. It will decline to the point where it becomes virtually irrelevant for politics. Within just 10 years. That's the timeline you're looking at. Maybe a decade and a half if they're lucky. So my advice to Kid Rock is, you've got every possible advantage. People are already talking about celebrity politicians. You should run. The Rock should try to run. Yeah, he should throw his hat in the ring too. Arnold Schwarzenegger should run for office again. All of these people should be running, and people with large platforms online and businesses, and, you know, they can self-fund to some degree. They should all be running too. The way to drain the swamp is to get rid of all the corporate lawyers and cronyistic bankers and wackadoodles in D.C. by primarying them all and kicking them out of office to get an entirely new class of individuals involved. And these people largely come from backgrounds, by the way, that are reliant upon anti-censorship rhetoric. If you're making music and it's not the most tame shit that you've ever heard.
Okay, that's
you probably don't want the FCC slapping warning labels all over your stuff and banning it from the radio.
Yeah.
If you're online and you're talking about politics or anything loosely associated with it, you definitely don't want a bunch of online censorship. I think it would be very good for the country if these classes of individuals found their way into office. Again, as opposed to people from old dying segments of the economy that have no real relevance anymore, they're all slimy. Kid Rock would probably do a better job. He probably would. Now, I'm not part of his constituency, so I wouldn't be able to vote for him, but I can make videos supporting his run. I can certainly do that to plenty of people, including some that are his potential constituents. Other people will do the same. And at the very least, it'll be entertaining, as opposed to politics of the 90s or something. So boring. Nobody wants to watch that stuff. There's a reason that the number of people voting declined steadily over that period of time, because it got so boring. One person arguing for high taxes against another person arguing for high taxes. One person arguing for common sense gun control against another. One person arguing for we need more censorship because my reasons against another person doing the same thing. It's all a scam. That's about all.
Reasons.
Peace out.
So that's the second one here, the second YouTube video. I have a third one in the queue, but I'm going to take a few seconds or a few minutes to I'll take a few minutes just to have a quick break before we start the last video. So if you would please bear with me for a few minutes, I'll have the music in the background here, and then we'll start the last video, which is about 40 minutes long, and I'll introduce some more when I get back here. So back in 5 minutes.
Tell you a short buskin' story. Guy with a free-rolled joint collects a crowd in the pouring rain. Then he hollers out, what's the point? Someone spark me up, someone spark me up. Got a PRJ. Half of the people were stoners, oh yeah. Rest of them gave it a try. Passed around twice, felt mighty nice. And I watched them brace fry. Hey, come on, guy. It only gets so high.
True.
Wanted to steal it. The Bogart got into his hand. Tried to puff twice, or a older guy's gonna fuck your shit up. Bam! Don't you understand? Don't you understand? That's karma, man. Going down to the corner. Plonka, my song. And the crowds are pressing. I don't mind messing. From noon to the break of dawn. And then I'll get something to eat.
You know who? Sonya. Red Sonya, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh. So, the final item for the playlist this afternoon, I figure, is going to be this. I'm getting this courtesy of Zeno's Warbirds, who also operates this Military Arts Pictures Productions. This guy takes old old film, digital images, restores them, and then sells the restored copy. This particular film, though, possibly the greatest thing he's got in his library. Declassified war footage film from, well, that's 58, yeah? It says 46 here. It's filmed in 46. Made public information in 1958. That's at the end of Eisenhower's term, just before Eisenhower starts talking about military-industrial complex. The other reason why I'm driven to put this video or to rebroadcast this particular film from Zeno's Warbirds, which you can see right here. I've already thumbed it up too, and I've linked it 10 times. If I've linked it once, I've linked it 10 times. This film has a direct bearing with any information that you might glean from people of the period who wrote about being in the war, particularly if they were prisoners of war or if they were in situations where shell shock or combat fatigue was an issue. Second World War was actually rather prevalent, and they had, for the first time during the Second World War, chemical means to deal with issues of issues like on the front line itself, or how to get people who were suffering from combat fatigue back into battle quicker. The one writer who really turned me on or twigged me on to this video without specifically identifying this video because he was dead and gone when I put the two together is Kurt Vonnegut, who wrote Slaughterhouse-Five, a novel which deals with being a prisoner of war in the town of Dresden during the firebombing of Dresden in 1945. Also, he talks about Blue 88s from time to time as a person who was treated, I would imagine, with with hypnotic regressive therapy during the course of the war, like during the war itself, before he even came back. I'm going to read this out to you. About 20% of all battle casualties of the American Army during World War II were of a neuropsychiatric nature. The special treatment methods shown in this film, such as hypnosis and narcosynthesis, have been particularly successful in acute cases such as battle neurosis. Equal success is not to be expected. Equal success is not to be expected when dealing with peacetime neuroses, which are usually of a chronic nature. Well, this is interesting. No scenes were staged. Cameras merely recorded what took place in an army hospital, i.e. in a vet hospital. I think this is a John Ford production, if I remember right. Maybe it's John Ford. Let's see if it says here. Paul Thomas Anderson brought me here. I have 2 reasons to thank him. This documentary is better than most today, and there's lots of good ones out. How does Paul Thomas Anderson fit into this? Just curious, thanks. His film, The Master, is all about a soldier returning from the war, and he uses direct dialogue from an interview, which is in this video. So the movie The Master, which is also thought to be about, well, frankly, Scientology. Scientology, ladies and gentlemen.
The guns are quiet now. The papers of peace have been signed. And the oceans of the earth are filled with ships coming home. In faraway places, men...
I have to look up the details on this particular before we get much further.
...dreamed of this moment. But for some men, the moment is very different from the dream. Here is human salvage.
It's John Huston, not John Ford. You can hear it in the voice. It's John Huston. John Huston is the narrator.
Somewhere the badges of their pain.
And also the director.
The bandages, the splint.
And it says here in the article on Wikipedia that John Huston, serving as a U.S. Army Signal Corps, he was serving in the U.S. Army Signal Corps during World War II. Wasn't released until the 1980s. Well, was released before then, but we didn't get active. We didn't all get the chance to look at it until the 1980s. Yeah, I believe that. So here's some of the 75 U.S. service members, recent combat vets suffering from various nervous conditions, including psychoneuroses, battle neurosis, conversion disorder, amnesia, severe stammering, anxiety states are followed in the course of their medical management. Several scenes are put out in the movie. We're going to start watching here after now that this is done.
Others show no outward signs, yet they too
incredible film. Incredible.
This hospital is one of the many for the care and treatment of the psychoneurotic soldier.
This was released in 1946 too, so this is footage that was gathered immediately following the end of the war. Some of these people who are suffering have already been through combat field hospitals.
These are the
for
casualties
treatment.
Of the spirit.
That's how they were identified.
Troubled in mind, men who are damaged emotionally, born and bred in peace,
John Huston's voice.
To hate war. They were overnight plunged into sudden and terrible situations. Every man has his breaking point, and these, in the fulfillment of their duties as soldiers, were forced beyond the limit of human endurance.
At ease, man. On behalf of the commanding officer and his staff
at ease, man.
Mason General Hospital, I want to extend a hearty welcome to all of you on your return to the United States. There is no need to be alarmed at the presence of these cameras, as they are making a photographic record of your progress at this hospital from the date of admission to the date of discharge.
To the time of
Here are
discharge.
men who tremble.
This here piece of paper got 47 lines, 47 paragraphs, there's 7 lines you gotta fill out, details of the crime.
Because they are of mental origin.
Sorry.
Men who cannot remember. Paralyzed men whose paralysis is dictated by the mind. However different the symptoms, these things they have in common. Unceasing fear and apprehension, a sense of impending disaster, a feeling of hopelessness and utter isolation.
I wonder what they might have seen when they were at battle, you know, that would give them some of these neuroses as well. It's not necessarily the fact that they were in battle. It's the information they were exposed to while in battle, perhaps. Oh, we can't bomb that target. Why not? Shouldn't shoot those. Why not?
The psychiatrists listen to the stories of the men who tell them as best they can. The names and places are different. The circumstances are different. But through all the stories runs one thread: death and the fear of death.
And then after you got wounded, what happened?
Same thing, only worse? Seems like my nerves keep getting worse on.
They get worse.
These airplanes, they bombed. I got killed nearly in one.
You nearly got killed. Where were you at the time?
St. Louis, I believe. Somewhere.
Oh, St. Louis.
Ooh. I don't remember.
D-Day.
What were you doing when the planes came over?
France, yeah, St. Louis.
You know where you are?
I think I'm in the States now. They told me I was coming back.
Right.
But they told me I was going to die.
No.
In the hospital, I wouldn't eat hardly.
No, you're
So I
not.
was sick. And I wouldn't eat hardly. They told me I was going to die, but then he couldn't help me.
Well,
Told me they didn't care where I died or not.
we will see that you don't die. You won't die.
Oh, man. Cat,
I lost
right?
my last buddy up there, Little Norman. He was second scout. I was first scout. They were all mixed up there. They were shelling us.
Well, did that make you nervous?
Getting close to see what's on his arm
I
there.
was first scout, and I should have been out in front. And he went out, and
What's
I started
this?
to go out after him, and he got shot. And yeah, he just said, "Oh, Dutch, I'm hitting." He crawled to my feet, and I actually
Right here.
called for the medic. And I went back to see if we could get the medic, and there wasn't any. And I started to go out after him again, and they wouldn't let me go. And he was the last one of the original boys that was with me. Him and I were the last two left out of the original.
And when you were shelled, how did you feel?
I don't know. It's just after Norman got hurt or killed, why I was all right when we were moving up or attacked or anything like that. When we get pinned down, I start thinking about him laying back there.
And then what happened to you when you think about him? How would you feel?
I just didn't care what happened to me.
Do you mean you didn't want to go back into combat again?
Yes, sir. I wanted to go back. I wanted to stay there. I wanted to keep on for him and all them other guys, John and Stryker and Tex and Pop.
And how do you feel right now?
I feel all right.
Have you been getting along?
Well, fairly well, sir.
Mm-hmm. You overseas?
Yes, sir.
Where?
We were in France, and then we went to Germany.
In where?
France to Germany.
And what outfit were you with?
I was with Headquarters Detachment, 50th Quartermaster Battalion, Mobile.
Mm-hmm. I see your PFC.
At present, sir.
You had to go in the hospital.
Sir?
You had to go in the hospital.
Twice, sir.
It says here on your record from overseas that you had headaches and that you had crying spells.
Yes, sir. I believe in your profession is called nostalgia.
In other words, homesickness.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
It was induced when, shortly before the war, I received the picture of my sweetheart.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, if you ask me, the doctor just caused this to happen. The doctor just triggered that. Did he? Did he not? Did the doctor not just cause that to happen because he knew what would happen when he asked those particular questions? I think he did.
Come on, sit down a minute.
He'll be all right, sir.
Now,
Up to that point, dude was the most straight of all of them.
is all right.
Of the first 3 or 4 soldiers?
Please believe me.
I do believe you. A display of emotion is sometimes very helpful.
I hope so, sir.
Sure, it gets it off your chest. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have been returned. If there was a patient, if there wasn't something upsetting you.
Yes.
Well, now,
Sorry.
you say you had received a letter from your,
Not a letter, sir, a photograph.
a photograph, yes. Well, what?
Dude is awesome. Dude is fucking right on the line, man. This guy is awesome.
I'm very
This
much
fucker's awesome.
sweetheart. She has been the one person that gave me a sense of importance in that through her cooperation with me, we were able to surmount so many obstacles.
What happened?
Well, when I was in combat, Mindanao.
Can you speak louder? I have trouble hearing you.
During the time, I got worried that my brother, he was killed in Guadalcanal.
Or the
Guadalcanal.
Yes.
Now I noticed in this.
So probably Marine or Navy guy, right?
Saw a vision of your brother. What? Tell me something about that. What happened?
Oh, I guess it was a dream.
Well, describe the dream. What did you see in the dream?
I dreamt that I was home, my brother was home, and my other brother was home. We all home.
Dude looks a lot like Michael Redgrave, man. Holy shit.
All of you were home.
Sitting around the table, everybody was happy. And we were laughing, you know, talking, just admiring each other's. And then it ended there.
You could see these images clearly.
Yeah, it was like in a dream, see.
Yeah.
Like in a dream, see, but, you know, real. It was a vision.
Well, after I got that motion, I was scared.
You were scared?
I don't know, sometimes I hope something would happen. Then again, I say, well, something did happen.
What do you mean by something happened? You mean you were hoping that you'd be wounded and sent back? Is that what you mean?
No.
What do you mean by that?
I meant that I hoped that just, you know, I was so disgusted and tired of everything. I just didn't feel like living. And then I changed my mind and I think back to my folks. And it'd be a double blow if something happened to me. And I'd be standing guard, sitting on a machine gun there, just watching. And I'd hear a little noise and I'd let go, shoot. It wasn't nothing, probably it was an animal or something.
Any noise made you excited and you just shoot?
At that time, yes.
Good point.
Do you feel worried?
That's how people get shot by mistake.
I don't know.
Are you mixed up? What's that pin on your shirt then?
My heart.
Well, why do you cover those up? Aren't you proud of them?
Yes, sir.
You got a Purple Heart? And campaign ribbons?
Yes, sir.
Well, why do you cover them up? Now, there must be some reason for you doing that. Well, what happened over there?
Well, we got in the scrape and I was in the house there. Just got off of guard duty and it's Friday the 13th and we were sweating it out all day. Patrol came up and German
I wonder, does that have anything to do with the fact it's Friday the 13th that he got it?
A Panzer Faust through the wall.
And what?
I was laying on a couch and right before it happened, I felt a little jittery, so I laid down on the floor. When I got up again, the couch was all torn.
In other words, you were almost killed, is that it?
Most have gone right over my head.
Do you feel conscious, that is, are you aware of the fact that you are not the same boy that you were when you went over? Do you feel changed?
Yes.
That's...
In what way?
I think it's a leading question, man. That's a fucking leading question if I ever heard one.
More jumpy.
How about with people?
I used to always like to have fun. I used to always be going places. I don't like to do nothing no more.
How long were you overseas?
11 months.
11 months. Were you in any combat at all?
This is 6 months, yeah.
I tried every way to keep my mind occupied, reading, going to the gymnasium, going out with fellas and trying to become an extrovert, trying to get out of myself. But it seemed to me that I got worse and worse. And
fuck, man, this guy's sharp too.
Developed after the fear of Saturday, I started developing fears of different sorts.
Did you ever have similar pains before you got married?
Never in my life.
Have you ever been nervous before in your life?
No, sir. Never. I was a solid man.
Do sudden noises bother you particularly?
I did just shake a little, but not that bad.
Oh!
Well, I guess I just got tired of living, you can put it that way. I had trouble sleeping, yes.
That's a suicidal tendency.
You know?
I just took off because I seen too many of my buddies gone, and
dude went AWOL?
And I figured the next one was for me. A man can just stand so much up there, see?
Admission note. Poole. Poole, comma, Walter L. T5. Transfer diagnosis. Anxiety reaction, severe. Active symptoms, in remission.
On this, their first night back in the States, each man who is able may make a long-distance call without cost. After months and years of silence,
oh my God,
voices are heard once again.
Excuse me. Poor guy with the sentimental problem might have a hard time with this part.
Then each man makes for himself a small home, which will be his for the 8 or 10 weeks to come.
Boy, I lie here and think of mother. Sorry, I can't help it. Can't help it, but go along with the music. Houston, John Houston.
Now in the darkness of the ward emerge the shapes born of darkness, the terror of things half remembered, dreams of battle, the torments of uncertainty and fear and loneliness.
Oh, no, this scene wasn't staged? Oh, none of the scenes were staged, remember? That one was staged. Réveillez!
The day begins with an early morning ward inspection. The medical officer in charge checks the condition of every man. Modern psychiatry makes no sharp division between the mind and the body. Physical ills often have psychic causes, just as emotional ills may have a physical basis. Possibilities of organic disturbance in the brain are investigated by means of the electroencephalograph. The Rorschach test. The things that the patient's imagination sees in these cards give significant clues to his personality makeup.
This looks sort of like a drawing of two women standing on a rock and waving their hands.
This man suffering from a conversion hysteria requires immediate treatment. Organically sound, his paralysis is as real as if it were caused by a spinal lesion, but it is purely psychological.
Well, just set him up
There's no physical cause for this. This is the point. This sequence is quite interesting.
Sit yourself over there.
I said 48 minutes, right? It's an hour long, this thing.
Well, now, can you move over just a little so I can talk to you? Yes. Now,
if you're wondering, I've got some still pictures of this scene taken already, and I tell you why. The guy who's bald here, the bald dude, when you see him side on, he looks like a Warner Brothers cartoon. I can't help but make the friggin' comparison. It's just so obvious.
Come on suddenly or gradually?
Suddenly.
Warner Brothers probably uses the dude.
Well, I started in the afternoon with crying spells.
Like for a caricature, maybe for.
Me. I started crying, lost control of my legs and my arms.
Was there any reason for crying spells?
I don't know, sir.
Anything happen at home to bother you?
Well, my mother's been ill.
She has been ill. Does that worry you a lot?
Quite a bit.
Well, now, has this got any...
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my nighttime girl.
With your mother's illness?
Any reason why you should have that kind of reaction?
No, sir, not that I know of. Unless my mother's illness might have brought this on. I tried to hold in while it hurts, but...
I see. You've just been holding these things in.
That's right, sir.
No way you can control this at all?
No, sir.
Well, now we're going to have to help you do that, of course. Let's take off this jacket here.
Dude's an interesting study, I gotta tell you. Both the soldier and the dude who's like the psychiatrist.
Right, now, lie down on the bed.
Doctor.
Right, now we'll leave the shoes on so you can walk in them. I think we're going to get you walking.
You're gonna need to walk later, so you're gonna keep your shoes on.
That's good. Now you lie steady. Lie steady, that's the boy.
Yeah, good.
This is all going to go away as I give you this medicine. No bother.
This medicine.
The method employed here is effective in certain types of acute cases. An intravenous injection of sodium amytal induces a state similar to hypnosis.
Similar, eh?
What a torpedo that is. You mind if I go?
What a torpedo, eh, boy? Woohoo! Bam!
Here, but you're going to talk to me as we go along.
Yes, sir.
That's all. Now, you're not going to feel much of anything else. You're going to feel a little bit woozy.
The use of this drug serves a twofold purpose. Like hypnosis, it is a shortcut to the unconscious mind. As a surgeon probes for a bullet, the psychiatrist explores the submerged regions of the mind, attempting to locate and bring to the surface the emotional conflict which is the cause of the patient's distress. The second purpose of this drug is to remove, through suggestion, those symptoms which impede the patient's recovery.
Now tell me a little bit about what you're thinking of. The thoughts are coming to your mind now.
Nothing in particular.
Well, now let's go back. Let's go back to Friday.
Friday?
Yeah, think about that.
Friday.
Yeah, Friday, yeah.
Your mother argues with you.
Yeah.
What does she argue about?
Well, every little thing. If you sit down in a long chair or something like that.
There's a real change
Just
there.
like the stuff you get in the store. Then she calms down.
Well, see, have you always tried to please her?
Yes.
Always tried to please her.
I used to clean the house for her when I was small.
Well, now why do you think she argues like that? Because she's sick?
Well, she doesn't try to control her temper.
I see. How about your father?
He's a swell guy.
He's a swell fellow, isn't he?
Gets kind of hot-tempered. Since my mother's been sick, it's been costing a lot of money. And he's lost a lot of weight from worrying.
I see.
My mother argues with him. She wants to know where the money is. But I don't care about that as long as everything turns out all right.
Well, now, this jumping, what does that make you think of? Think about it a minute.
I can't help it. It just jumps.
How about the legs? Do you know anybody who had any trouble with their legs like that?
No, sir.
I'm going to stop here. The jumping, right? The jumping around, I think he means... I think he's talking about how there's a jumping around from scene to scene or from thing which he's focused on, can't let go of. If you haven't read Slaughterhouse 5 already, you might remember. If you haven't, the very first line is not going to spoil the text at all for me to tell you this. The very first line which matters is... Billy Pilgrim had come unstuck in time. Unstuck in time.
Go on. Except several years ago, there was one fella. He had something wrong with his right leg. Water in the knee, but he's walking today. That hasn't bothered me.
Was that anything like your leg?
I don't know. He couldn't walk at all.
He couldn't walk at all?
No.
What do you think of when you can't walk like that?
I wish I could walk.
But what do you think of? What comes to your mind when you find that you can't walk?
So maybe I think my mother and father should be okay. Sometimes I wonder, hope the war ends soon. Things like that. Nothing in particular.
Well, now the shakes are gone now, haven't they?
Yeah.
How about your legs? They're good and strong.
I feel all right.
Move them. Let's raise them.
Oh, I used to be able to raise them before, but I can't walk.
Well, how about them now?
They feel all right.
They feel good now, as if you can walk in them, don't they?
Toes feel numb.
Toes feel numb, but that's going away, isn't it?
Yeah. Gee.
Suggestion's going to get rid of your numb toes.
You're going to be able to walk, aren't you?
I don't know.
Well, you're going to, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I walk. I love walking.
You love walking.
Who don't?
You've always been very fond of walking. Now you found yourself...
We've all loved walking.
Now you're going to get right up.
Can you tell how much the fat guy likes walking?
Right now.
I'm sorry.
All right, now let's sit up.
Oh, buffalo.
Here fine.
Where's the dude from?
Now
Just
stand
Buffalo.
Now look at that.
Dang. He had me walked in.
All right, now walk out.
Take a look on his face as he laughs.
That's the boy. Walk over to the nurse. You're just a little woozy. That's the medicine. Now come back to me.
Sodium ambatol.
Come back to me.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Open your eyes. That's the boy. Isn't that fine? Isn't that wonderful?
Sure.
All right, now again, once more.
Yeah, but how long are we going to be?
Oh, it's going to stay that way. It's going to stay because that's taking care of your worry now. All right, now come on back to me, and I'm going to let you go to sleep. When you wake up, you'll keep on walking perfectly well. How about it?
Thanks, sir.
A little bit of a snooze would actually help matters here now. That's good. I agree. Cure.
Yeah, there you are. Now I'm going to have you go right to sleep. When you wake up, it'll be all right.
Thanks.
All right, sleep, Girardi.
The fact that he can walk now does not mean that his neurosis has been cured. That will require time. But the way has been opened for the therapy to follow. Now a new way of living begins, very different from the old one whose purpose was killing and trying not to be killed. Now in an environment of peace and safety, all the violence behind them, they are building rather than destroying. Men have their choice of occupational therapy.
Deep-seated psychological
Some find
requirements.
relaxation in mechanical jobs. Certain types of cases obtain relief in precision work, which answers their inner need for order and certainty. For sons and daughters and nieces and nephews and neighbors' kids, hobby horses are turned out by the carload. Physical reconditioning is not the only purpose in sports, which also serve to bring men out of emotional isolation and back into group activity. One of the most important procedures is group psychotherapy. Here, under the psychiatrist's guidance, the patient learns to understand something of the basic causes of his distress. As one of a group, he also learns to understand that his inner conflicts are, with variations, common to all men.
Right. And I think of it a little bit like this. We want to get you out of your own feeling of isolation, to get you to feel that you are like other people. In order to get to that,
I can't help but one. I'm going to interrupt here again. Now, to what degree is the process of conscription and indoctrination into regularized military force, hierarchical military force, to what degree is that process meant to also make them feel not isolated, but dependent on the team, the group unity? If you get what I mean. Like, if they don't break you, the individual, down to make you a new thing, part of this unit, the fighting unit of men that you care about, like they're your own self. If they are harmed, you are harmed. That's part of this fucking reasoning. It's part of the issue that these people who are suffering have, if you ask me.
We have to use...
They were already indoctrinated once, and the indoctrination, for whatever reason, hasn't stopped.
And something else which has to be added, and that is an experience of safety. You could say it is almost the core of all our treatment methods. Development of knowledge of oneself with the accompanying safety that it brings. I'd like to see if we can get some illustrations of how one's personal safety would stem from childhood safety, and how the childhood safety itself would stem from the parents.
See, I gotta wonder.
Safety.
In my illustration is that as a child, whenever I underwent any experiences that were frightening to me, I never told my parents. I kept it to myself. While I was alone at night in my room, I'd call on God. So if I had done anything wrong that I was ashamed of, I was ashamed to go to my parents and tell them what I had done. So I kept it to myself. And I used to be in constant fear that my parents would find out my feelings.
Well, I wonder if there's any of your mother's troubles that you would know about.
No, my mother never gave any of the children any part of her troubles.
Well, that would be the same thing that happened to you. She didn't tell her troubles. and you didn't tell yours. You took your troubles to God, and she probably did the same thing. Probably didn't even confide in your father. In other words, the kind of method that you used to get relief from anxiety was really, we'd have to assume, learned and felt right in your home.
We have to assume it, so we're going to assume it.
Caused by economic conditions of the world. I mean,
economic conditions.
Compete one another, trying to get a better job, trying to keep up with uprising, things like that. Of course, a lot of arguments in the home. Mother and father arguing about the price of the food, and that has a reflection on the children. Things like that. So I think that was one of the causes of worst.
Not having enough food to eat, or the arguments between them?
Both. I mean, there was.
Which was the worst, though?
No, I guess the arguments.
Not having enough food to eat. These people have all lived through the fucking Great Depression. Every goddamn one of them.
Sure, of course they are.
Because I can't remember about the food.
They're not all fat.
You can't even remember about the food or the lack of food.
I have in mind my own childhood. We're coming from a moderate family. Moderate in the sense that the family had some sense of security. What happened there was
a job,
we were told that
income, a house.
Myself, my brothers and sisters, we couldn't just play with any of the kids we wanted to play with unless their parents in turn had the equivalent of what our parents had. And as a result, we were kept in a narrow circle, very, very narrow. However, I have found that there has been a strong yearning on my part to break out of this environment, to be able to play with Tom, Dick, and Harry.
I'd say the net result's like this. Your mother did not feel really so superior. She felt inferior when she tried to make you take the attitude you were better than the other children. So that now, certain experiences in the Army have brought that out more clearly, because you've been thrown in with Tom and Dick and Harry and need to get along with them. It's not necessary to be in the Army. It's not necessary to be in the war. These kind of troubles have always gone on in all...
It's not necessary. No, you want to eat? Your family wants to eat? You need a job? That's why they were in the military.
Is that
right?
Yes, sir. And I studied very,
it wasn't only the Nazis.
I couldn't recite in school.
Can you explain how you get started to talk? How you began to get over that?
During the war, the first word I ever spoke, Santa Claus had brought me a war gun, and my brother broke it.
This is the First World War, yes?
And so,
Santa Claus brought the gun and your brother broke it.
Yeah, when I went in to get my gun, I just...
The First World War. That's how old these people are. Don't forget, they lived through two. One is children, one is adult.
Because someone broke your gun.
So that's where I started talking.
I would say all those symptoms, like being unable to speak, stuttering and so on, they have an underlying anger and resentment in the deeper parts of the personality. You could almost say it like this. Underneath, I can't, you usually find, I won't.
Except on Okinawa, I was stuttering too about 3 weeks. And as soon as I came here, I'm here a month now, I stopped stuttering.
You've stopped stuttering
Okinawa.
since you came here? Yes, well, that's good. I don't know whether that's a tribute to the doctors or a tribute to your fundamental health.
It's to my fundamental self.
No tribute to the doctors at all. Very good.
They laugh at that.
Some patients
the fucking doctors, they're such assholes.
Hypnosis is often effective in certain types of battle neuroses, such as amnesia. This man does not even remember his own name. A shell burst in Okinawa wiped out his memory. The experience was unendurable to his conscious mind, which rejected it, and along with it his entire past. Through hypnotic suggestion, the psychiatrist will attempt to evoke them.
Relax completely and put your mind on going to sleep.
I want you to think about a dancing frog.
Keep your eyes
a frog
on
dancing and singing,
on
but only when you look at it, not when anybody else looks at it.
Go into a deep sleep as
Only
we go
you.
in. You're going to go into deep sleep as we go in. Now clasp your hands in front of you. Clasp them tight, 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 tight. They're getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and as they get tighter, you're falling asleep. As they get tighter, you're falling asleep. Your eyes are getting heavy, heavy. Now your hands are locked tight. You're locked tight. They're locked tight. You can't let go. They're locked tight. You can't let go. When I snap my fingers, you'll be able to let go. When I snap my finger, you'll be able to let go, and then you'll get sleepier, and your eyes are getting heavier.
Whoa!
Your eyes are getting heavier, heavier, heavier. You're going.
Is he giving him the sodium and the amytal head?
Deep, deep sleep.
Or has he just done this a million times?
Far asleep. Eyes now closed tight. Closed
Vet
tight.
hospital wear. Look. USAMD.
Deeply relaxed. Far asleep. You're far asleep. You're far asleep. Now you're in a deep sleep. You have no fear, no anxiety. No fear, no anxiety. Now you're in a deep, deep sleep. Now just sit down in the chair behind you. Sit down in the chair.
You're deeply sleeping, but standing.
Lean back. Head
Knees together.
Forward into a deep, deep sleep. Head now is falling forward. You're going further and further and further asleep. I stroke your left arm, become rigid like a bar of steel, and you'll go further asleep and further asleep.
Oh!
Further, further asleep. Rigid.
Like a bar of steel.
Not be bent or relaxed. When I touch the top of your head, I touch the top of your head.
It's a little curious thing to do.
You'll go further asleep. You'll be in a very deep sleep.
A very curious problem. Oh!
And your sleep is deeper and deeper. Now, when
I think I see what he's doing here.
My finger will
He's in Okinawa. He was in Okinawa.
When I touch this hand, my finger will be hot. You will not be able to bear it.
Oh!
Your arm is rigid.
Rigid!
Now, as I touch your hand, you will no longer feel any pain there. It'll be normal. Now the arm is relaxed and you're further and further and further asleep. Now you're deep asleep. We're going back. We're going back now. Going back to Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Going back to Okinawa. You can talk.
Okinawa.
You can talk. You can remember everything. You can remember everything. You're back
Okinawa was a particularly vile campaign. Vile reports.
Tell me. Speak.
I'm in the battery area.
You're in the battery area. Go on. Tell me what's going on.
Getting fire missions.
You're getting fire missions. Go on.
On the radio.
You see everything now, clearly.
Getting shells thrown at us.
You're getting shells thrown at you. From where?
Japs.
Japs. Go on. Yes. Keep on. You remember it all now. Every bit of it's coming back.
Japs getting near us to get our position.
Japs getting near you to get your position. Go on.
Told us to get cover.
Who told you to get cover?
BC.
BC. Go on.
There's 5 of us. One of the boys got hurt.
One of the boys got hurt.
Took him away. I was running over to my gun position.
Yes, go on. You remember it now. Tell me. It's all right now, but you can tell me. You can tell me.
Explosion?
Yes. You remember the explosion now. All right, go on.
You're carrying me.
They're carrying you. Who's carrying you?
I don't know.
Where are they taking you?
Carrying me across the field.
Across the field. Go on.
Put me in a stretcher.
Yes? Yes? Go on.
They're still throwing shells.
Yes? Can you hear them?
Yes.
You see them?
No.
All right. Where are they taking you now?
Put me in a truck.
Hmm? Why are you fearful now?
I'm over it.
You don't want any more. You want to forget it. But you're going to remember it because it's gone now. It's gone. You're back here now. You're away from Okinawa. You've forgotten it. But you remember who you are now. Who are you?
Dolly.
Dolly, that's right. Full name now. Dominic Dolly, that's right.
Whoa!
You know your mother's name?
Isabel.
That's right. Father's?
Salvatore.
That's fine. You know who they all are now. All right, now you're coming back with us. This is going to stay with you. You're going to remember it all. You're going to remember about Okinawa. You're going to remember about the shells and the bombs.
You won't have to talk about it, but you're going to remember it.
You're at ease and relaxed. There's no fear, no anxiety. When I wake you up, you'll be comfortable and relaxed. No
And your arm will be
no
rigid,
weight.
like a bar of iron. Ha! Oh man, that's horrible.
I've told you.
Fucking horrible.
All that you've remembered. You can wake now. Well, how are you?
Pretty good.
My arm hurts.
Under the guidance of the psychiatrist, he is able to regard his experience
Did you burn my arm?
as a thing of the past, which no longer threatens his safety. Now he can remember.
Well, Hofmeister, what's your trouble?
This is horrible. I want to make fun of this guy just because of his name, Hofmeister. Sorry. Not funny.
Hot. Need to get my words out.
Yeah, it does seem to be a bit tough. How long have you had that trouble?
It started about a month ago.
Where were you then?
I was in France.
In France. Have you been in combat?
Yes.
Well, maybe we can help you talk a bit better and you can tell me more about it then, right? Let's lie down and see if we can't help you on that.
Goddamn right, brother.
This man is not a chronic stutterer. He suffers from a battle tension which the drug will attempt to diminish.
The
Like
drug
the
will
man who could not walk and the man who could not remember. His illness has an emotional basis.
Get all comfortable now and relaxed. We're just going to give you some medicine here, and it's going to help limber up that tongue of yours.
Gonna limber up that tongue of yours. We're gonna give you a real battery with the truth drug.
Well, now tell me now, how do you feel now?
Woozy.
Make any difference in your feeling?
Oh, yeah. No, it's just like seventh heaven.
What is it? Tell me about
it. Jesus. Did you hear the guy laughing? I could. Listen.
Well, now tell me now, how do you feel now?
The guy, I mean the doctor, not the dude.
Make any difference in your feeling?
Oh, yeah. No, it's just like seventh heaven.
What is it? Tell me about it.
What? I can talk.
I can talk. I can talk.
I can talk.
That's good, boy.
Listen, I can talk. Oh, God, listen, I can talk. Oh, there's nothing wrong. Oh, God, listen.
All right, it's coming back now. You're going to take it easy.
Oh, listen, I can talk.
Just the way you always did, is that right?
God, listen. Oh, God, I can talk.
Just the way you always did, Hofmeister.
Right,
Keep right
yes.
on with it now.
Oh, nice.
Let's take it easy now. Just talk just a little lightly now.
Just take it easy now. Just take it
why
easy.
You couldn't talk before? What's coming to your mind now? Tell me, what's coming to your mind now? What is it in your mind when you couldn't talk?
Did he get wounded?
What is it that stopped it?
Did he get wounded?
Something came through there and stopped it. What is it now? Think quickly. Think deeply.
Somebody
Let's
get
go
wounded.
back. When was it you lost your speech?
Someone got killed.
Had your trouble talking. Go back quickly.
Seems that I first noticed it on a boat.
On a boat?
Coming over.
It first started with an S. And the fellas laughed at me. I don't know why they laughed. Till the guy started.
Well, let's start with that S. Let's go back to that S now.
Ooh.
What were you thinking then? What was in your mind then?
Right now?
No, then.
On the
Then.
boat?
Yes, with that S. When you didn't say that S right.
Yes.
Yes.
They laughed isn't a good thing.
Port side.
Port side.
Port side. Mm-hmm. Port side of the ship.
What side's that?
That would be the left side.
Left side, that's right.
Yeah, I remember it. Because we were up there that afternoon and we saw the fishes. And we had some flying fishes. And I came down and he said, I was telling the fellow underneath me about the ports that I had seen some flying fishes on the port side.
He tried telling them about the flying fishes, and he stumbled over the S sound. And the fellows laughed at him. Think hard. S. S. What does S remind him of? S. S. He remembers. It is the sound he fears. The sound of death in combat. The sound of a German 88 high-explosive shell coming in. Now it is possible to proceed to the basic method of psychiatric treatment, discussion and understanding of the underlying causes of his symptom.
So yeah, the sound of the S, the sound of the German 88. Now the battle, according to some sources I've read, if you look this up, you can find out for yourself. Look up, or do a search for blue 88s. Just I'll do a quick Google search to give you an idea. They just said, the German 88 shell, right? So here we have a blue 88. Was a blue colored pill, was a mix of calming drugs, mainly barbiturates such as sodium amytal, which is what they've been injecting into these guys, used to treat American soldiers in the Second World War who suffered from battle fatigue. In most cases, it was used to induce sleep and therefore a hypnotic state. Public PBS service piece called Battle of the Bulge from American Experience series, which was broadcast in '94, provided an overview of the use of this pharmaceutical. This documentary, produced in Boston, reviewed the pivotal World War II German offensive in the Ardennes in Belgium in 44-45. Following is a summary of the transcript which relates to the drug. Because of the increasing losses during the Ardennes offensive, the Allied forces began to suffer from a shortage of soldiers. Those not severely wounded or suffering from battle fatigue were encouraged to return to the front lines. The 103rd Medical Battalion Special Troops Dental Officer of the 28th Infantry Division, Captain Ben Kimmelman, was active in the medical corps and witnessed the effects of the battle. Men who were wounded and were redeemable were in a very bad position. There's a kind of merciless rule about sending them back if they're able to go. And as far as they could tell, they would be repeatedly, if they weren't killed or so badly wounded that they were destroyed, it would be repeatedly that we were sent back. Very hard to forget the expressions on their faces. You have the kind of hollow-eyed, lifeless, slack-jawed expression, almost if they didn't see you go by. And you don't. After a while, you learn not to greet them because their minds are elsewhere. It's almost as though they're going to a hopeless doom, and that's the phrase. And there's a phrase for those men. They're called ragmen. These were infantrymen or infantry medics as such, going back to a hopeless future or no future, and having no choice in the matter determined, and their practice march and practice step is, as always, back up where they must go. One of 4 soldiers wounded during the Battle of Bulge was classified as a psychiatric casualty. Ben Kimmelman continues, people who were not necessarily severely wounded or were no longer in charge of themselves, they would be put into a detachment or an installment that put them through a kind of very quick and dirty process in which they were given sodium amytal, which is again the drug which we're seeing in use in this documentary. They were given sodium amytal or one of those other, it's sort of a truth serum thing, but it was in the form of tablets. These would give them a very deep, very, very deep sleep, almost like trance light sleep for 24, sometimes 48 hours. During this time, the enlisted men and myself would sometimes go by. We had to supervise it because they'd be screaming. They'd be screaming, and they would be in a deep, deep sleep, and there'd be terrible expressions of their fear and their fright. The assumptions that this would have some kind of cathartic effect. The sodium amytal, which the men called blue 88s. You know, the most effective artillery piece of the Germans was the 88. And this was blue 88s, because sodium amytal was a blue tablet. And then they'd come out of this in, depending on the dosages, 24, 48, or 72 hours, and they'd be walking around completely numb. Sometimes they'd be slipping and falling. It took a few more hours. Then they would be given a shower, new clothes, and pep talk, and the attempt was made to send them back. I'd say the attempt because it didn't always succeed. They weren't suitable to be returned. So this is as far as I need to read.
The weeks pass,
blue 88s
begins to show its effect. The shock and stress.
When he says 88, say that S sound of the 88s, that might be a little bit of bullshit covering up the truth.
Now they are living less in the past and more in the present. Sometimes they think of the future. The war years must be put aside, and the responsibilities of peace must be considered. A man might open a filling station or a hardware store, or he can buy a few acres of land and raise some chickens. He might even go back to school.
And don't you forget about that GI Bill.
Now the men resume their contact with the world outside. These are the people they are coming back to, whose lives are bound up with theirs. Without their understanding, all that has been accomplished in the last few weeks can be torn down. With it, their return to life can be doubly swift and sure. Classes in group psychotherapy continue. The men are thinking of themselves in relation to society. How will they fit into the post-war pattern? How will the world receive them?
You fellows have had an opportunity to be home with your families since you've returned from overseas. Have you noticed any change in the various members of your family toward you, in their reactions toward you?
Well, I found out after 4 years of absence that it only took me the second day to be really relaxed, and I was right chummy again with my dad, and talked about the old neighborhood and the new changes. I don't know, it surprised me.
Do you feel that your family has to be taught how to treat you when you come back?
No, absolutely not.
How do you want to be treated by your family?
The same I was treated before I went to the service. No difference.
You don't want to be treated any differently, no?
Hell no.
I was talking to one man, and I said, what do you think of us fellas that come back with psychoneurosis anxiety state? And I says, you can see that we're not crazy by any means. And he says, well, before...
Remember, too, that during this very war, one of the most popular newsworthy generals, General George S. Patton, had famously been reprimanded by Eisenhower, officially reprimanded by Eisenhower from the war because of an order from the War Department, because during the Sicilian campaign he'd slapped a soldier suffering from combat fatigue, shell shock, and called him a coward, basically called him a coward and tried to physically assault him to get him to go back to the front. This is the alternative to physical assault, and George Patton is the reason why this question was asked.
I come out here to see, he says, my first impression was like in Bellevue. He said, fellas from the last war, they're completely maniacs. He said, that was my first impression. And I'm wondering if, the great percentage of the people are going to be like that when we get out.
That is a common concern among servicemen who have developed nervous conditions during their stay in the Army as to what the public is going to think about them. Undoubtedly, there will be people on the outside who won't have any understanding of the condition, who may think of it as being a rather shameful condition. That's why we're having an educational program, trying to educate the public into understanding. Unfortunately, most of you fellows have gone through some very severe stresses in the Army. stresses that civilians are rarely subjected to.
Not going to be
Civilian life,
subjected
you
to.
can avoid serious stresses. If a civilian, the average civilian, were subjected to similar stresses, he undoubtedly would have developed the same type.
Watching your buddy's face explode right in front of you, that would be like that kind of stress. Having a shell go off anywhere close to you, that's the kind of stress you mean.
Most of you fellows developed. All of us have our so-called breaking point.
And a survey outside showed that civilians, on the whole, were more nervous than soldiers. On Park Avenue, for instance, where some of your richest people live, most of the patients are people who suffer from nervous disorders, and if the doctor won't give them a pill, why, they'll go out and say, well, he's not a good doctor. So therefore, they're given pills, and they take them at home. They take these pills at home because the hospitals are too full. If the hospitals were empty, they'd be in a sanitarium or so forth.
Haven't been through none of these discussions.
It's a curious idea.
I know that we have learned the basis of how we've gotten nervous, some of us through combat, and some of us by not being in combat. And I think, and I'm sure that we have a better understanding of our conditions, and I'm pretty grateful of being here at Mason General Hospital like a lot of fellows are. I just so happens I couldn't walk, and they made me walk. I couldn't walk when I arrived, and I was here 24 hours, and they made me walk. I feel pretty grateful for getting my limbs back. But that isn't me driving that. It's that I know that when I get out of here, and the other fellows do too, that we're going to try our best to make
And the other fellows do too. It's one of the signs of the unity factors which boot camp is impressed upon these people is that they feel willing and capable of speaking for everybody. I know the other fellas feel this way too. They don't mind to say it, but I'll say it.
More confident in to grasp this nervous situation that's come about us, and we want to show people that we can do things on our own on the outside. Well, we've been in a hospital for nerves or mental or wherever we've been, where we lost an arm or a leg, that we can be just as good as anybody else. All I want is that they give us a chance to prove our equality like they said they were. I hope they keep their promise. That's all I hope.
Would you make it a point to tell your employer that you were a psychoneurotic?
Well, if he's an intelligent man, which most well-known employers are that own large concerns, why, he's going to react the same as any other normal human being would. He's going to say it's absolutely possible. And the man right now looks all right. I'll try him out.
But you may run into employers who are not that broad-minded or intelligent.
Yes, sir. And I'll sell myself to them.
How about you, Hoffmeister?
And I'll sell myself. Is that what he said?
Do you have any fears about getting a job?
Love for sale. Okay, this is love for sale.
I think it comes down to this, doesn't it? That most
I think I might have just interrupted Hoffmeister. I didn't want to do that.
Who are not that broad-minded or intelligent.
Yes, sir. And I'll sell myself to them.
How about you, Hoffmeister? Do you have any plans about jobs, or do you have any fears about getting a job? Or
no fear whatsoever. I've got my job waiting for me, sir.
You have your job waiting for you. I think it comes down to this, doesn't it? That most of you fellows feel that you ought to be honest with your employer, that you have nothing to hide, nothing to be ashamed of.
Yes,
Isn't that the general attitude?
Yes, sir. That's the way all of us feel.
Your time in the service was not entirely wasted.
Hoffmeister.
A great deal in the
what
service.
A name.
For instance, a great many jobs.
Hoffmeister. You know what that means? I'm pretty sure it means master of the house. Color me crazy. Master of the house. That's what I think it means.
That you've learned to do in the service, that you have had
Shiftmeister would mean
contact
similar.
with in the past. You've also learned to work in groups, something that every soldier learns to do.
Oh, hang on. House is house. Hoffmeister.
Military career. This definitely will be of much value to you in your future civilian employment.
The weeks have slipped by fast. The first strangeness of hospital life has become routine. Sometimes a man learns something new. The Ranger always did want to play guitar. And now the days begin to seem long. There's the old healthy sound of belly aching in the air. Spinach. Spinach again.
Oh, healthy sound of belly aching.
And how about putting some ice cream in the ice cream soda? No longer is a man shut up within the lonely recesses of himself. He is breaking out of his prison into life. The life that lies ahead, offering infinite possibilities for happiness and sorrow. How does a man find happiness? Is there a secret to discover? What is the mysterious ingredient that gives joy and meaning to living?
You know in the Bible where it says, man does not live by bread alone? Children don't grow up well without safety and confidence. If that wasn't in one's childhood, in growing up, you could say, now there was something missing during all that time. And the next question is how to supply it. And it does need to be supplied. Not all of the learning in all of the books is half as valuable in getting over nervousness as to find someone that you esteem, that you can learn to feel safe with, where you can get a feeling of being accepted, of cherished.
Someone who you esteem.
Where you get a feeling that you're worthwhile.
Partnership is what I hear.
Important to someone. You could
Pretty
say,
sure a lot of these guys already know
feeding
this.
that you didn't get, that's something more than bread. When you were little, you still need to get it. You still need to be fed with acceptance and to find the safety. In other words, knowledge alone is not enough.
Go! Go, goddammit, go!
8 weeks have passed. What about these men? Are they ready for discharge? How complete is their recovery? How about the boy in right field?
I just didn't care what happened to me.
How about the kid at bat?
Foxhole was covered by dirt. And I was covered up for 29 hours afterwards till they found me.
Shirts and skins, ladies and gentlemen.
Get out of here! Get out of here! You're out of here! Get out of here!
Hard for me to get my words out.
Hofstetter. Hofmeister.
Batter up!
How about this kid?
Couldn't walk. Here he's gonna run. Look at him run.
How about him?
He's gonna make 3 bases. This kid's really turning it on now. He ain't letting up at all. He's going home. He's going home. Here he goes. Come on. Straight.
Are they well enough to be discharged? That is for the doctors to decide at tomorrow's boarding. The answer is yes.
One at a time, discharged. When Johnny comes marching home again, and we all cry, hey, oh.
Men, this is your last military formation. Today, you're returning to your homes, your families, and friends.
Many of you have been looking forward eagerly to this day. But remember that when you re-enter civilian life, on your shoulders falls much of the responsibility for the post-war world. May your lives as civilians be as worthy as your records as soldiers. Good health, good fortune, and Godspeed.
Hang on. I recognize that dude. That dude up there. Wait a minute. That dude.
Godspeed.
Look. This guy. Isn't he the guy who loses the drinking game in Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark? Isn't he the dude who loses the drinking game to Marion in Raiders of the Lost Ark? It's him, isn't it? Like the Russian, Mongolian, Siberian dude. What? Drinking the vodka? All the pretty nurses. No man left behind. Program. Thank goodness this wasn't called Program Manchuria. What am I right? Am I right? Well, I'd like to thank you all for joining me this afternoon for the Pitchforks and Flaming Torches Banjocast. Not a lot of banjo, as you can see today, although I did have quite a bit of fun rebroadcasting stuff off of YouTube, as per my norm. I'm going to probably be back again sometime later this evening. I'm waiting for some more content to come down onto YouTube. And I'm also looking for story ideas in my local vicinity. So if you have any ideas for things that you'd be interested in hearing about that I might be able to provide for you, please leave a comment or send me a message to my YouTube channel. And also, please consider subscribing to me. I do need more subs. I have a soft goal of 100 subs. That's all I want. I don't need 200,000. I don't need 1 million. I don't want to take on PewDiePie or anything like that. I just want 100 subs. 100 subs makes me a happy man. Please consider subscribing.